we started the Public Information Call Center, along with other council members and key employees, where residents could call in and learn firsthand the information we had available. It was a heartfelt, memorable, sad moment to tell someone over the phone that yes, their home was no longer there, and to hear the sobs and shock over the phone. Thank goodness there were more calls informing people that their home and pets were safe. Los Alamos had the promise of our congressional delegation, and in particular, Senator Pete Domenici, who said the federal government would make things right. I am thankful for all the valuable lessons our community learned in 2000, when again in 2011, we were hit with the Los Conchas fire. We were so much better prepared. Come every spring, I fear the wind, as it always takes me back to our time when we lost a significant part of our dear Los Alamos. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you to our former Fire Chief Doug McDonald and former Council Vice Chair and Chair Sharon Stover. This is a recognition, whereas on May 4th, 2000, a prescribed burn on Cerro Grande Peak and Bandelier National Monument grew out of control, leading to the evacuation of Los Alamos on May 10th and White Rock on May 11th. And whereas before the fire was fully contained 1 month later, more than 400 families in the north community and western areas of Los Alamos had lost their homes, marking one of the most devastating and defining moments in our community's history. And whereas 25 years later, we have rebuilt our homes, restored our community, and renewed our sense of purpose, yet we continue to reflect on the lasting impact of the Cerro Grande fire and the resilience, unity, and compassion that it inspired across Los Alamos County and beyond. And whereas we remain deeply grateful to our northern New Mexico neighbors and to individuals and organizations across the state who opened their homes, churches, and shelters to support us in our time of need. And whereas we also thank our local, state, and federal representatives who championed the Cerro Grande Fire Assistance Act, securing vital recovery funding, and the many agencies and organizations who stood beside us throughout the crisis and its aftermath. And whereas we honor the bravery of the Los Alamos County firefighters, police officers, emergency responders, public works and utility crews, and all county employees who work tirelessly to keep us safe and lead a recovery. And whereas since the Cerro Grande fire, our community has faced new wildfire threats, including the Los Conchas and Cerro Pelado fires, neither is destructive thanks to important lessons learned, stronger preparedness, and a shared commitment to forest health. And whereas the devastation caused by the 2022 Hermit's Creek and Calf Canyon fires to our friends and neighbors in Mora and San Miguel counties, and more recent catastrophic wildfires in California, Texas, and Hawaii, remind us that no community is immune to the growing threat of wildfire. We stand in solidarity with those who have endured such losses and recognize the urgent need for continued preparedness, resilience, and mutual support. And whereas today, volunteers, county staff, and partner organizations remain dedicated to trail restoration, fuels reduction, and wildfire resilience, ensuring that the lessons of 2000 are never forgotten and our community is better protected for the future. Now, therefore, on behalf of the Council of the Incorporated County of Los Alamos, I do hereby recognize May 10th, 2025 as the 25th anniversary of the Cerro Grande fire, and encourage all citizens to share and reflect on what was lost, what was rebuilt, and what we have gained through courage, compassion, and the enduring spirit of community through the county's Cerro Grande online forum at lacnm.com/CG2025. Dated this 6th day of May 2025 and signed by our chair, Teresa Cole, Los Alamos County Council.
Thank you, Councilor Haveman. Our acting fire chief, Serby, Wendy Serby, do you have any comments?
Good evening, Madam Chair, councilors, Councilor Haberman, and residents and friends of Los Alamos. I am deeply honored to receive this proclamation. Thank you so much for the recognition. On behalf of the men and women of Los Alamos Fire of then, in 2000, and of today, we are grateful for this acknowledgement of the 25th year anniversary of the Cerro Grande Fire. This proclamation means so much to us as it highlights hard work, dedication, and perseverance of not only the fire department members during the event, but the members of the community and the neighboring communities who all pulled together to help. It also reinforces that we are a mountain community. We honor our history that is defined by the works of J. Robert Oppenheimer and the Cerro Grande Fire. The Cerro Grande Fire was the first to affect 350 families profoundly. What our community experienced in 2000 is often repeated on today's news for breaking news. We are particularly grateful for the support of council, for the encouragement that we received from the community. Your belief in our mission has been instrumental to our success. Then, the resounding word back then was probably rebuild. Today, it is resilience. As we continue our work on our mission today, we are focused on home assessments, mitigation projects, and sharing knowledge regarding home hardening techniques. We are more determined to make a difference in helping residents of Los Alamos increase resilience to wildfire. With your support, with the support of the community, we know we can achieve great things. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
I would like to invite people up for members of the fire department and residents, if you want to come up and join us with the proclamation acceptance. I'd like to recognize Deputy Chief, retired Chief Daywald. He was there during the Cerro Grande Fire. He was 1.5 years into our department, so he is in the audience also, so I would like him to come up.
Excellent. Any councilors that want to join?
Thank you.
Go ahead, Councilor Haveman.
Thank you again, everyone. Just a reminder, as mentioned in the recognition, we invite the community to help us honor this moment by sharing their memories, photos, videos, and/or audio clips related to the Cerro Grande Fire, its aftermath, recovery, unity, and healing. Submissions can be made through the county's online form at, get out your pen and paper, lacnm.com/CG for Cerro Grande 2025. So it's lacnm.com/CG2025. And please, we ask you do that by Thursday, May 15th at midnight. We also invite everyone to please join us on Tuesday, May 20th from 4:30 to 5:30 p.m. in room 110 here at the main level of the municipal building to view the collection and remember the strength, compassion, and resilience of this community.
Thank you, Councilor Havman. All right, we're moving on to item 7, public comment for items on the consent agenda. There are about 8 items on the consent agenda. Are there any public comments on any of those items? I don't see anyone in the room. Is there anyone online, Mr. Brown?
If you're online and you'd like to make public comment on this item, please raise your hand. Not seeing any chair.
Thank you. So item 8 is the consent agenda. The following items are presented for council approval under a single motion unless an item is withdrawn by a councilor for further consideration. Do I have a councilor willing to make a motion? Councilor Reddy?
Thank you, Chair Cole. I move that council approve the items on the consent agenda as presented, and that the motions in the staff report be included for the record.
Is there a second?
Second.
I have a motion from Councilor Reddy and a second from Councilor Neil Clinton. Any discussion? Councilor Reddy?
Just very briefly, I just wanted to point out that among the items on the consent agenda, item D is a services agreement for a technology to help mitigate fuel on steep slopes. And we have another item coming later that is very appropriate for this tonight's recognition and for the Sarah fire. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other discussion? All right, could we have a roll call, please?
Councilor Cole,
Yes.
Councilor Riegler,
Yes.
Councilor Hand,
Yes.
Councilor Hackman,
Yes.
Councilor Herman,
Yes.
Councilor Neil Clinton,
Yes.
Councilor Wrighty.
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0.
All right, let the record show the motion passes unanimously. Brings us down to item 9, introduction of ordinances. I'll point out for items A and B that there is a revision on our dais for whoever reads the introduction. So 9A is CO 0711-25, introduction of Incorporated County of Los Alamos Code Ordinance Number 02-365, an ordinance amending Chapter 40, Article 3, Sections 40-121, 40-122, and 40-123 relating to electric rate schedules, electric customer service charges, and electric energy charges. Do I have a councilor willing to introduce this? Councilor Reagan?
Thank you, Chair. I introduce without prejudice Incorporated County of Los Alamos Code Ordinance Number 02-365, an ordinance amending Chapter 40, Article 3, Sections 40-121, 40-122, and 40-123 relating to electric rate schedules, electric customer service charges, and electric energy charges, and ask staff to assure that it is published as provided in the county charter.
Thank you, Councilor Reagan. All right, moving on to item B, CO 0712-25, introduction of Incorporated County of Los Alamos Code Ordinance Number 02-366. Do I have a councilor willing to introduce this one? Councilor Herman?
I introduce without prejudice Incorporated County of Los Alamos Code Ordinance Number 02-366, an ordinance amending Chapter 40, Article 3, Sections 40-201 relating to sewage service rates, and ask the staff to assure that it is published as provided in the county charter.
Thank you, Councilor Herman. Item C, OR 1051-25, introduction of Incorporated County of Los Alamos Ordinance Number 742, an ordinance to lease certain county-owned space, or county-owned land rather, to the Los Alamos Dog Obedience Club Incorporated. Is there a counselor willing to introduce this one? Counselor Reagan?
Thank you, Chair. I introduce without prejudice Incorporated County of Los Alamos Ordinance Number 742, an ordinance to lease certain county-owned land to the Los Alamos Dog Obedience Club Incorporated, and ask staff to assure that it is published and provided in the county charter.
Thank you, Counselor Reagan. And then finally, I believe, item D, OR 1054-25, introduction of Incorporated County of Los Alamos Ordinance Number 741. Do I have a counselor willing to introduce this one? Anyone? It's online. Counselor Hammond?
Thank you, Chair. I introduce without prejudice Incorporated County of Los Alamos Ordinance Number 741, an ordinance authorizing the execution and delivery of a loan and subsidy agreement by and between the Incorporated County of Los Alamos and the New Mexico Finance Authority in the total amount of $2,727,000 for the purpose of financing the costs of phases 2 and 3 of the Denver Steel's water line replacements project, and ask staff to ensure that it is published as provided in the county charter.
Thank you, Counselor Hadman. And I lied, there's one more. OR 1062-25, introduction of Incorporated County of Los Alamos Ordinance Number 740. Is there a counselor willing to read this or introduce this one? Counselor Herman.
Thank you, Chair. I introduce without prejudice Incorporated County of Los Alamos Ordinance Number 740, an ordinance authorizing the transfer of certain county-owned real property to the Richard Skotnicki and Pamela Skotnicki Revocable Trust, and asks staff to assure that it is published as provided in the county charter.
Thank you, Counselor Herman. All right, moving on to public hearings. Item A, CO 0720-25C, Incorporated County of Los Alamos Code Ordinance Number 02-367 related to distracted driving, an ordinance amending the Code of Ordinances of the Incorporated County of Los Alamos by amending Section 38-299 of Chapter 38, Traffic and Vehicles, relating to the use of handheld mobile communication devices while driving, and repealing Section 38-315 in its entirety and replacing it with a new Section 38-135 relating to distracted driving. And I believe we have a presentation or some more information on this from Chief Scambolo.
Good evening, Madam Chair, Councilors. I'd like to provide a brief overview and then stand for any questions. This was brought before you a few weeks ago, but we had to amend it based on some language that was in there that we felt could be interpreted in such a way that was not the original intent of the ordinance. This ordinance, along with the speed camera ordinance, is part of our overall traffic safety strategy. While we currently have a distracted driving ordinance, this puts more of a focus on the use of the phone in particular, given the evidence that suggests how many accidents and serious accidents are the result of people either utilizing their phone in whatever fashion. And also, as I've mentioned before, it's hard to, while we know many accidents are the result of distracted driving, it's not always easy to identify what particular issue, what the particular distracting issue was. And again, I think from a messaging perspective, as we know, many are the result of the use of the phone. This provides us an opportunity to enforce that in the hopes of having less accidents caused by distracted driving.
Thank you, Chief. Are there any questions from counselors? Counselor Righty?
So I was looking at the revised language and I was trying to see, because you had the section in the modified version about the handheld microphone. So radio microphones, I guess we'd call them. Is that, did I miss it? Is that no longer in, is this in, that's still in this draft?
Madam Chair, Councilor Righty, the amended draft takes out the language that could have been interpreted to prohibit the use of a microphone, which is what you would see in a police vehicle, for example, but also many construction vehicles. Imagine buses have them.
Right, yeah. Okay, so that is no longer mentioned, which means it's not part of distracted driving.
Correct.
Because you have to be able to do that safely, to be able to run through the routes on the buses and all the other things you mentioned. Okay, so I'm trying to, we did get one public comment on this item that I don't know if you've seen it or not.
I have none.
Okay. I was basically concerned about removing distracted, I guess, drive a vehicle elongation. So number 1, under prohibited activities, is now moved under distracted driving. And the commenter is concerned that this creates some sort of ambiguity about other activities that might be distracted driving. So maybe you can take a second to take a look at the comment, so you don't have to listen to my paraphrasing of it.
I guess I'm not following this because it says the
I think they're just concerned removing the number 1 item, but then we have a whole new section about distracted driving, which includes the text of number 1. So it just is a, but that doesn't create any kind of issue with terms of being able to enforce this ordinance as indicated?
not in my opinion.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any questions? Counselor Hammond?
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Chief, for returning to us with this. I had a question about Section 2, Part D, as in David. It says yada, 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 is presumed to be making a call within the meaning of this section. So what I'm wondering about is the driver permitted to be on a phone call, say, for example, when the phone is sitting on his or her lap, or maybe on the center console, it's not being held, but the phone is in distance enough for the driver to be heard by whoever he's conversing with, and that's okay. Is that what it says when it says is presumed to be making a call within the meaning of the section, in that section being that's an allowed activity, not unallowed?
Madam Chair, Councilor Hammond, in my view, yes, if it was sitting on your console, for example. However, if it wasn't hooked to your Bluetooth or otherwise, and you had to answer the phone by way of picking it up and pressing a button or 2 buttons or whatever, that piece of it would not be legal. if you didn't have a vehicle with Bluetooth or it wasn't hooked up via a cord and after you get past that point, you're just talking on a phone with it sitting on your console. I don't view that as a violation.
And that's kind of what paragraph D of section 2 is trying to say. It says, an operator of a motor vehicle who holds a handheld mobile communication device to or in the immediate proximity of the operator's ear is presumed to be engaging in a call within the meaning of this section. Then the presumption established in this section is rebuttable by evidence tending to show that the operator was not engaged in a call.
Again, it's I lost my train of thought. Remember the statute is really incorporates a whole host of activity that could be considered distracted driving. This puts more of an emphasis or focus on the use of the phone, but even in that scenario, where you have it sitting on a console, I don't know if you, and again, the enforcement of some of these what-ifs are challenging to consider, but if you reach down to turn it off or whatever, and that caused you to lose your focus and you result in an accident, and we could prove that somehow, then yeah, you could be cited under this. But whether it's the use of a phone or, all the other things we discussed, eating, putting on makeup, whatever, all of that's distracted driving. This just puts an extra focus on the use of the phone because we know that the data supports that how many accidents, I don't know that number, if somebody's going to ask me, I don't know that number off the top of my head, but that many accidents are the result of the use of the phone in particular.
Okay, I thought I understood it, and I concur with the intent of this, and certainly the desired outcome of public safety and safer driving. So I just wanted to make sure I understood that. It was the meaning of this section. I wasn't quite sure exactly what that meant. So thanks for clarifying.
Thank you, Councilor Hedman. Other questions from councilors? All right, I'm not seeing any. Do we have any public comment on this item from anyone in the room? Is there anyone online that would like to comment?
If you're online and you'd like to make public comment on this item, please raise your hand. Not seeing any, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Real. Do I have a councilor willing to make a motion? And just FYI, there is a revised motion on the dais. Councilor Haveman?
I move that council adopt Incorporated County of Los Alamos Code Ordinance Number 02-367, an ordinance amending the Code of Ordinances of the Incorporated County of Los Alamos by amending Section 38-299 of Chapter 38, Traffic and Vehicles, relating to the use of handheld mobile communication devices while driving, and repealing Section 38-315 in its entirety and replacing it with a new Section 38-135 related to distracted driving, and ask staff to assure that it is published in summary form.
Thank you, Councilor Haveman. Second. So we have a motion from Councilor Haveman and a second from Councilor Wrighty. Any discussion? Councilor Wrighty?
I just wanted to thank Chief for working on this and coming up with the revised language, and hope that this helps with send the message and help with the distracted driving that we do see, as pointed out, is in the summaries that we get on accidents. There's a large fraction of them are distracted driving. Not all of them with phones, but a large fraction are distracted driving. So thank you.
Yes, sir.
Any other comments or discussion? All right, could we have a roll call, please?
Councilor Herman,
Yes.
Counselor Heatherman.
Yes.
Counselor Call.
Yes.
Counselor Rigor.
Yes.
Counselor Neil Clinton.
Yes.
Counselor Wrighty.
Yes.
Counselor Hand.
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0.
All right, let the record show the motion passed unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. We're on to item 10B, CO 0724-25B, Incorporated County of Los Alamos Code Ordinance Number 02-368, an ordinance amending Chapter 10, Building and Building Regulations, Article 3, Division 1, Section 10-71, and Chapter 22, Fire Prevention and Protection, Article 2, Division 1, Section 22-31 of the Code of the Incorporated County of Los Alamos to include Chapters 2, 5, and 6 of the International Wildland Urban Interface Code. And Juan, you're going to start this? Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. So, before you tonight is the public hearing. I wanted to update you on the developments since our first discussion on March 18th and the ordinance introduction on April 8th. Before I get started, I wanted to introduce other members of this team who are here tonight and available to answer your questions. We're joined by several members of our LA Fire Department, including the County Fire Marshal, Colorado Cordova, and several members of the Community Development Department, including our Chief Building Official, David Martinez, and Dan Osborne, our Housing and Special Projects Manager. I'll begin with a quick recap of our proposed ordinance. Before you this evening is an ordinance that outlines very specific wildfire-related changes to two sections of our municipal code, particularly the building and fire protection chapters. The goal of this ordinance is to mitigate the fire risks by establishing guidelines for building construction and fire safety in our community. Our WUI ordinance is modeled after the 2021 International Wildland Urban Interface Code, which is the industry standard code for WUIs. Our intention with using this as a model is because we have heard that insurance companies prefer this type of local municipal ordinance. Also, on May 4th, Los Alamos County has entered into Stage 1 fire restrictions. Last Wednesday, we held a virtual town hall meeting that had several participants who asked many good questions. And I will paraphrase some of those questions as, how will existing structures have to comply? What impacts will this have on homeowner insurance for their property? And at what cost is there for individuals to comply? The answer to many of those questions are that this WUI ordinance is not meant to be punitive and will only be applied when major improvements come in as a building permit, and this will not be retroactive. At this time, I'll ask Mr. Osborne to speak on some recent developments that he has learned in these areas.
Madam Chair, Council, I just have a couple of brief comments. Essentially what we're asking for is this really does create regulatory clarity for our building department, our plans reviewers, and our inspectors in the field. The contractors already know that using the Class A fire rated assemblies are the best practices, but we don't have any way to point them to the code to require them to do that when they're talking with homeowners or somebody who's looking to do a rehab or build a new home. So it would really be helpful for us to be able to point them to that because they already know that that's the best practice, but we can't make them do that at this time. It also helps us with the insurance when we can demonstrate that the homes in our community and the businesses have been built to this higher and appropriate standard. And it helps the community when we can point to this requirement when the insurance companies come and do assessments of their homes to show that we have built to this standard, it is a requirement in our community, and then it helps pay out on the reimbursements if there is a claim, a homeowner claim.
At this time, I'd like to ask our fire marshal or chief building official to add anything they may have to the conversation.
Madam Chair, Councilors, just a few words to talk about the code. These provisions in the code are designed to mitigate the risk of fire in the WUI areas
by ensuring that our buildings are constructed with materials and methods that enhance fire resistance by managing the surrounding environment to reduce fuel for potential wildland fires. Our primary goal in adopting this code ordinance is to enhance life safety and preserve property by reducing fire risk. While we cannot eliminate the possibility of a catastrophic event, our focus is on minimizing potential damage through proactive fire prevention, building codes, and mitigation strategies. As fire threat grows more severe, it's critical that our building and fire codes adapt and evolve to provide a stronger, more effective protection.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, councils, just to reiterate that there's nothing that the code is still, it's still being enforced. All that's happening right now is basically we're updating the verbiage and making a couple of areas more stringent. But the contractors still know that we're required to have hardening on the exterior of the building, so anytime anybody comes in for a new building permit that's going to affect the total area of the building itself, they already know that they have to bring it up to code.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And with that, we have plenty of people here for questions, so thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Allen. Questions from councilors? Councilor Wright?
Thank you, Chair Cole. So I think when we talked about this the first time, I asked about fire-wise communities, and I think that I looked up, some of the requirements. It seems like going this direction is one of the things, but I think there's other kind of neighborhood level, there's other things we would need to do at the neighborhood scale perhaps, other than just the individual home. So, and I understand, I watched the town hall video when you talked about encourage people to do the home assessments, kind of home by home doing that. I just wondered what, other than this ordinance, what would be involved in Los Alamos County actually being a fire-wise community?
Madam Chair, Councilor, I'm going to defer this question to our wildland chief. Chief Sterling.
Madam Chair, councilors, good evening. It's a great question, Councilman Wrighty. To this question, I think the biggest thing is when we talk about fire-wise, we talk about fire-adapted communities, it really takes neighborhood involvement. It really takes the responsibility away from the fire department. It places it in the hands of those neighborhoods, those private property owners, to where they are really leading that type of event, right? So, you know, we've done neighborhood level assessments, and I think that's a good start to kind of kickstart those programs in the event neighborhoods want to get involved with those type of programs. But again, at this point, you know, with our Ready, Set, Go program, with our home assessment program, we're kind of leading the charge and bringing it out to the folks to kind of reinvigorate, educate, and, you know, put that ball in their court to where if they're interested, we will more than be happy to support that and lead that charge for them. But again, it's all about people, you know, taking ownership of their neighborhoods.
Okay, so so basically it's a campaign by the county to help promote that.
That is correct.
Okay. So I was just curious about, I know that the home evaluation assessment program has been very popular. It took me many weeks to get an appointment, so I know that's the case. But I was just curious about the number of people that attended the town hall, because I couldn't see that number in the video. Do you have a recollection of approximately how many people?
Madam Chair and Councilor Wrighty, if I recall correctly, it was about 8 individuals online, and we probably fielded maybe 15 to 20 questions.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then I noticed on YouTube it had 3 dozen views or so. So it seems like we need to go a bit, even though this was before we had the rain, right? Everyone's really happy with the rain. You know, we had the discussion about it's probably not going to make any difference in terms of the wildfire risk here in a few days. But do you have a recommendation for us? I know this is a little bit off the subject, but I think it's relevant to this ordinance. We're trying to get people interested in this topic, and obviously people get cancellations and on their policies or rate increases, they get interested. But how do we get that neighborhood level interest up? Are there examples from other communities where they've been successful in doing this?
Yeah, I think the prime example that I really look at is what's going on in California, and where that's, again, driven by the insurance industry and what that, impacts on the individual households. I think locally, what we're doing with the home assessment program, where you mentioned that it's great to get a home in one neighborhood and a home in another neighborhood done, we're seeing more homeowners engaging their neighbors, and we're revisiting those neighborhoods to where slowly but surely, I think that's the initiative that's really been pushing is, as I talk about on our home assessments, as I talked about with yourself on your assessment, our neighborhoods are only well mitigated as the least mitigated home unit. And to that end, I think homeowners are taking that responsibility onto themselves, engaging their neighbors, having educational conversations, and getting us back out there on a neighborhood level to where we're doing multiple homes in a neighborhood to where, I think that sense of community is reestablishing itself with wildfire mitigation.
Okay, and I want to make sure everyone knows that Councilor Han had her own assessment for
Absolutely.
So make sure the credit goes where it's due there. I was just curious about one thing in terms of there are sprinklers required, so I guess this is maybe for the building or fire marshal. So I think there's an exemption for residential, but it mentions something about 4-story, I think it's not 3 stories, it's a 3-story townhouse. So is that more than 3 stories or 3 stories and up?
Madam Chair, Councilor Eddy, it's 3 stories above grade plane in height, so meaning where the truck parks, 3 stories above the truck.
Okay.
That floor.
So is it okay to be specific with a particular townhouse? I believe that they're over 3 stories, so that means that those have to have
Over 3 stories, so.
They're the ones on Arkansas.
The code is not retroactive, so new construction.
Yes, but they're not all built now, right? There's
Correct.
some of them built, there's like another 40 still to be built.
That is true, but as far as I know, those plans have already been approved
So is that-
based on
Okay,
the older code.
so is that the case, those, even though they're not built yet?
Madam Chair, Council, those are actually only 3 stories.
Okay, there's the garage level, and then there's a level up above, so depending how you're measuring the height.
Yeah, I think in the code, and without the code in front of me, it has to be over 50 feet that you start talking about sprinkler systems.
Those are over 50 feet tall. They actually had to get a variance. I was sitting at the P&Z hearing for those, but anyway, so that's one example where maybe that's a residential property that might have to have sprinklers.
Exactly.
We're not exactly sure.
Yeah, exactly.
It may not.
We'd have to look at the code and make sure.
But otherwise, there are no sprinklers required, and then the other things you're talking about are the siding. But I think one of the things that's a treatment is to use a special kind of paint that is more fire resistant than typical paint. Is that correct? Does that give you the rating that you need, or is it only the material?
It's usually only the material. Now, if it's paint, it depends on how, do you have to put it on annually? It would be the manufacturer specs that would actually dictate
Okay,
what happens on that.
okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Wright. Any other questions from councilors? Councilor Reaper?
Just to clarify this, you can still use tar or asphalt shingles, right? As long as they are Class A, is that the right idea? Or is there a...
Yes, sir. As long as they're Class A, and any more in the industry, shingles are usually just Class A anyway.
Yeah, so when you look online, it's hard to find anything that's not Class A.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Reaper. Other questions? I guess I have a quick question. Not being super familiar with the building code. I did a modification to my home after the Cerro Grande fire. Would have been about 21 years ago maybe. And because we took out the front, the middle part of the front of the house, we had to replace it with a cement board, whereas the rest of the house is a mahogany wood. What's different about this revised code than we were required to do back then?
I don't think there's a whole lot of difference. Now, 21 years ago, of course, I wasn't even in the industry. I was still swinging a hammer. But for the most part, it's not until you touch it that you have to replace it. So anything else, you know, if it's minor repairs, we wouldn't be trying to have anybody, you know, replace one cement board and stick it up on the wall as opposed to taking off some siding.
What if I wanted to replace a wooden deck?
That would definitely be affected.
And
With
what
this
would it
ordinance.
have to be replaced with under
It
this?
would be something that would be along the lines of Trex deck. It's composite,
Okay,
Class A fire rated.
okay. All right, do we have any public comment on this? I don't see anyone in the room. Do we have anyone online that would like to make a comment?
If you're online and you'd like to make a public comment at this item, please raise your hand. Not seeing any, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Bell. Do we have a counselor willing to make a motion, keeping in mind that there's a revised motion on the dais? Counselor Reddy?
Thank you, Chair. I move the council adopt Incorporated County of Los Alamos Code Ordinance number 02-368, an ordinance amending Chapter 10, Building and Building Regulations, Article 3, Division 1, Section 10-71, and Chapter 22, Fire Prevention and Protection, Article 2, Division 1, Section 22-31 of the Code of the Incorporated County of Los Alamos to include Chapters 2, 5, and 6 of the International Wildland Urban Interface Code and ask staff to assure that it's published in summary form.
Thank you, Counselor Reddy. Is there a second? Second from
Second.
Herman. I think Counselor Herman beat you. So we have a motion from Counselor Reddy and a second from Counselor Herman. Any discussion? Counselor Reddy?
Just that, recognizing the Cerro Grande fire 25 years ago and just continuing our efforts to, I think this was something that we had talked about. There was something like this in the code before, now we're returning it back. And that I think there were a lot of concerns raised at the town hall about requirements, but this is trying to make sure that any renovations you do are in any new building are within the new code. And that we also have these other programs that are ongoing. So we've had the home evaluations and then the additional pressure collection. So I think we're trying to work with people to help them comply with this code. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor Reddy. Any other comments? I'll just mention also that we've heard and we've had plenty of comments in the past about insurance issues in the area, and hopefully this will be one step toward helping with that issue as well. All right, could we have a roll call?
Counselor Neil Clinton,
Yes.
Counselor Hand,
Yes.
Counselor Herman,
Yes.
Counselor Wrighty,
Yes.
Counselor Rebor,
Yes.
Counselor Haberman,
Yes.
Counselor Cole.
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0.
All right, let the record show the motion passed unanimously, and thank you all for being here. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, councilors.
All right, we're going to move on to item 10C, RE 0640-25. Incorporated County of Los Alamos Resolution Number 2508. A resolution of support authorizing application for funding assistance from the New Mexico Department of Transportation through the fiscal year 2026 Transportation Project Fund, otherwise called the TPF, for the Denver Steels Phase 2 reconstruction project. Are you ready, Mr. Eric?
Hello, good evening, Madam Chair and members of council. You're guaranteed to have at least one Eric present this item tonight.
I saw that. There are 2 of them.
Your approval of this resolution tonight would allow our county engineer to apply for a transportation grant with the New Mexico Department of Transportation for $2.2 million for the Denver Steels Phase 2 project. It does require a 5% county match, and our original request was actually for the entire funding amount for the project. However, the DOT contacted staff, and because of the amount of requests that were coming in, had limited funds that were available to each local entity. So they recommended we reduce our request to $2.2 million, and that was something that they felt would be appropriate and something they felt that would be awarded to the county. So we have, I feel, a very good chance at being awarded that amount. Thank you, Madam Chair. And
Thank you.
available for questions.
Do any councilors have questions? I don't see.
I have a quick one. I have a quick one.
No, Councilor New Clinton.
So since we are, since we're aware that it's 2.2, then do we still have to put anything up, or do we not have to put anything up now?
Madam Chair and Councilor Neil Clinton, good question. This project is actually programmed already in the county CIP program. So any funding that we do get via grant is just money that the county won't have to spend out of our CIP fund. So yes, this project is currently programmed for the
Wonderful.
Estimated amount.
Wonderful, thank you.
Thank you, Councilor New Clinton. Any other questions? Do we have any public comment on this item? Anyone online? I don't see anyone in chambers.
If you're online and you'd like to comment on this item, please raise your hand. Not seeing any, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Real. Is there a councilor willing to make a motion?
I move that council approve Incorporated County of Los Alamos Resolution Number 2508, a resolution of support authorizing application for funding assistance from the New Mexico Department of Transportation through the fiscal year 2026 Transportation Project Fund, or TPF, for the Denver Steels Phase 2 reconstruction project.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
I have a motion from Councilor Neil Clinton, and I think I have a second from Councilor Haberman. Any discussion? All right, could we have a roll call, please?
Councilor Raji,
Yes.
Councilor Regal,
Yes.
Councilor Hand,
Yes.
Councilor Cole,
Yes.
Councilor Haberman,
Yes.
Councilor Neil Clinton,
Yes.
Councilor Herman.
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0.
All right, let the record show the motion passed unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. All right, we are on to council business. General council business, I don't think we had anything under that. We don't have any appointments tonight. There is a board and commission vacancy report attached to the agenda for anyone's info. There are a few vacancies on some of the boards and commissions.
Chair?
Yes.
I just wanted to, sorry for interrupting, but I want to point out that I had noticed this before, but the Health Council is a strange one because it has 15 slots, so that number is not correct. So there's actually a lot more vacancies than are listed. So
Yeah,
there's,
it only showed one.
it only shows one, but I think there's only 10 appointees, I believe, at the moment. But
Okay. So if you're interested in the Health Council, there's more than one position available, potentially. All right, do we have any, we're down to item D, board and commission liaison reports. Any councilors have liaison reports?
Chair,
Councilor Han?
I just wanted to mention that I have submitted that through email, through the county council distribution, and that can be attached as part of the minutes
Thank you, Councilor Hand. Is there anything you wanted to highlight?
Not at this time, no.
Okay, thank you. Any other liaison reports from councilors? Councilor Rebar.
The Parks and Recreation Board met on the, this is pretty far back now, this is April 10th, but I don't think we've had too many reports since then, I think. And I looked at the shade structures for the ice rink and went through all of the options and opted for a pre-engineered one. And so they're, well, that should be coming to us sometime soon. I don't know where it is on the upcoming ticklers, but that will be something will be coming to council soon on that. And then the other thing, well, we always have lots of gopher complaints, and that's probably connected to the artificial turf thing that's going to be coming up and being on our agenda soon. And then and that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Rebar. Any other liaison reports? You want to have Councilor Ray?
Thank you, Chair Cole. So the Inclusivity Task Force met once. We had a presentation from Craig Martin giving a citizen perspective on accessibility of trails. And then there was some observations about the urban trail ramp being kind of long, either uphill or downhill. So that's something to look into further. So the Inclusivity Task Force has a number of working groups. They have one on accessibility. There's BIPOC and cultural, economic, equity, justice, and LGBTQ+. And I believe that they're scheduled to make their presentation to council on their kind of their midterm report at the June 20th meeting. If I'm remembering the date right. It's I think the third meeting in June.
Yeah.
And then the Health Council met one time, May 1st, and so they had a discussion about a recent letter to the editor about the response and follow-up to mental health crisis, especially for our youth. At the same meeting, there was also a presentation from the public schools where they're discussing their youth resiliency survey that's done every 2 years and the plan coordination that they have. So that was some pretty useful discussion. It's too lengthy to summarize here, but that's all I have, I think. Thanks.
Thank you, Councilor Ray. Any other? Go ahead, Councilor Hammond.
Thank you, Chair Cole. As Councilor Rieger said, because of budget hearings, we haven't given an update in a while. The Board of Public Utilities met on Wednesday, April 16th. Started off with a presentation from Michael Peterson. He's a hydrologist with NMED, the New Mexico Environment Department. Couple key bullet points I took away. I hope I characterized this correctly. I think as some of us maybe know from regarding the chromium plume, there's 5 data gap wells. One of them's on San Ildefonso Pueblo land. They're looking at they're working under a new consent order that includes a new process for dispute resolution between DOE and NMED. They're working on incorporating the key recommendations from the IRT, that's the, what is it called, the independent review team or independent technical review team. They're negotiating Appendix B for fiscal year 26 with various milestones and deadlines and penalties, and working on a proposal to revert the PM3, that well identified as PM3 to an injection well. Then other items on the agenda at that BPU meeting actually led into the introduction of ordinances we had tonight regarding electric rate schedules and sewer rate service rates, and also the Denver Steel's water pipeline replacements project. And those were the main points from that BPU meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Herman.
Thank you, Chair. The Environmental Sustainability Board met on April 17th, talked about the fleet conversion plan and community-wide EV charging plan, had a presentation. There is going to be a public visioning session on May 12th. And we also spoke about Earth Day that took place recently, which turned out great. And then I also attended the North Central New Mexico Economic Development meeting April 24th. And there was a presentation about, it was an update on the Workforce Integration Network program, which is federal, it was a federal grant for job training, and it's 3 years long. They've requested a 1-year extension, but it seems to be going well. Also spoke about regionally how housing is just a major issue for everyone. And our own Dr. Sasser spoke about regional opportunity for tourism and a couple of different things. Regional marketing campaign, vacant building inventory regionally, with business retention and expansion being the key there, and also improving communications to keep companies in our region. And that's it.
Thank you, Councilor Herman.
I only have to add that the APP board met on they met as directed, and they came together and presented the information regarding the Boys of Pajaritos painting, and the vote was held, and they've completed that mission and that task.
Thank you, Councilor Neil Clinton. All right, let's move on to item E, 11E, County Manager's Report. Ms. Loren?
Good evening, Council. March seems so long ago, and so many things in the report were highlighted and covered in the department updates at the budget hearing, so I'll just stand for questions on the report. But I do want to give a quick, really good news announcement. Our county engineer, Eric Ulibarri, and our Deputy Public Works Director attended a New Mexico DOT Safety Committee meeting and requested additional funding for our Trinity Drive Safety Improvement Project. And they were awarded $3.5 million additional dollars, and that's 90% federal, 10% state. So when we reviewed the capital plan and you saw that additional $4 million, similarly to what Mr. Martinez said, when we get grant money, that just frees up that money to be used for another project when we get grant funding in. So that's very good news, and I thank them for their efforts and diligence to jump on that opportunity. And I think with that, I will just stand for any questions you might have, since I'm a little under the weather.
It'd be nice to her. Anybody have any questions? That's all right.
I don't think I had the opportunity to comment that I like the new format of the report. It's nice and short, and I think it's easier to see what the different highlights are, so thank you for working on that.
Any other questions or comments? All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next item is Council Chair Report. Since our last report on April 8th, Councilor Reaver and I did a quick walk around on the golf course just to see how things were rolling there on April 12th. I attended a lunch meeting with the public schools and UNMLA on April 17th. Just an FYI, Los Alamos High School graduation and Senior Appreciation Night is May 24th, and UNMLA graduation is May 16th. Lots of stuff going on in town. Drive slowly. I went to the Los Alamos Police Department on April 21st and did some proclamations, one to animal control and one to the dispatch folks. We had the budget hearings, obviously, on April 21st and 21st to the 23rd. Councilor Haveman and I read the Earth Day proclamation at Peak on April 26th. I attended Chief Hughes' retirement lunch on April 25th, and I'm participating in the Board of Public Utilities candidate interviews. The first one was yesterday. That's all I have to report. Anybody have any questions on that? Okay, good. Any councilor expenses that need to be approved? Councilor Brady?
So, I'm gonna have my report next time for the external groups, but one of the activities that's coming up that we might want to get some approval on tonight is that there's the National Cleanup Workshop that's in Arlington, Virginia, and it's September 24th to 26th. So I think I just had some short conversations with Ms. Duran about engaging with the Energy Communities Alliance, and so it's an opportunity to have another counselor go. But we could talk about that more next week, but I thought we could approve the travel so that we'd have some latitude for making arrangements. Otherwise, we'd have to wait. So.
You want to make a motion on that?
Sure. I move that we approve travel for up to 3 counselors to the National Cleanup Workshop, Arlington, Virginia, September 24th to 26th, 2025.
Is there a second? Councilor Herman, second. So there's a motion from Councilor Brady and a second from Councilor Herman. Any discussion? All right, we do a quick roll call on that.
Counselor Rigor,
Yes.
Counselor Cole,
Yes.
Counselor Haveman,
Yes.
Counselor Herman,
Yes.
Counselor Wrighty,
Yes.
Counselor Neil Clinton,
Yes.
Counselor Hand.
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0.
All right, anything else on councilor expenses? All right, moving on to item H, preview of upcoming agenda items. I'm just going to point out a few, and if y'all have anything that let me know. This Friday, May 9th, council's going to be meeting with the council from San Ildefonso Pueblo over at UNMLA at 5:30. On the 13th, that'll be a work session down in White Rock. We're going to have a briefing by Rep. Christine Chandler on the 2025 legislative session. We're going to have on May 20th, which will be our next regular meeting, we're going to have the update on the ice rink shade structure, and we're going to have a quarterly financial update. And those are the things that I ran across. Anybody else want to point out that obviously we introduced a bunch of ordinances tonight, so those will be coming up on the schedule probably early June. Anything anyone else wanted to point out? Councilor Brady?
And this doesn't necessarily have to be within this time frame, but I wanted to have us consider some other topics. So one thing is I think the pedestrian plan update was on the list, right? I think I saw that one on this tickler, not the one further out. So part of that has to do with, building facilities, for pedestrians to keep them separated from other modes of transit, or to have bikes and pedestrians in some cases together, if it's wide enough. So and we just got input, I think, on the Cameron Trail Phase 2 and 3, right? Design, and I would still like to have some discussion about how to continue something like that further west. Whether it's on the canyon in some places or not, I think there's been some ideas about where it might go. That could help with our basically limited options there because of Trinity, and anyway, so I'd just like to have some discussion about that, what the options might be. terms of our budget and then the projections, I know we can't be tracking this daily, but I think we're going to be getting updates on the GRT, right? And that's maybe not something that shows up on the tickler, but, and also,
That'll actually be a quarterly financial update. Then.
it'll be a quarterly financial update, okay. And then I'm not sure if that'd be the appropriate time also to be looking, it's great to hear about the grants, but there's the opposite side of grants not continuing, right? So I think that's on the federal side. So it seems like those might be good to have. Whatever information we have to share on the funding side would be good to have. And then I think, I'm trying to remember when we last had a social services update. Was it, I didn't look back on I didn't go back on the agendas and look, but I think it's been a little while. I mean, it's just because I'm with the health council every month, but and we've had other discussions about the social services action center, formerly known as HUB. So I think that's something that's going to be coming back, but I think it was just maybe good to have. And I think that they're actively working on, what would be involved, what should be on the list of things that helps identify, how big a building you need and maybe where it would be located or whether or not it's really one building or not. So at some point, maybe that's further out, but I just wanted to put that kind of idea out there that it'd be good to have maybe some more discussion with council so that staff and health council understand where we sit with regard to that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Brady. Any other items that anyone would like to suggest for a future agenda at this time? Councilor Reaver, were you going to say anything?
Well, it's on there. The small business group is going to have a report in a week.
Yeah. That's the working group from council.
Yes.
Alrighty. We are down, so there is an item 13 on here that's, and I'm going to get back to item 12. But there is an item called Working Groups and External Entities Reports that we normally include in the work sessions. So we will have that one on the work sessions. But I am going to back up to, we'll go to item 13, but are there any councilor comments at this time? All right, so item 13, the Working Groups and External Entities Reports. Was anyone gonna provide a report tonight on that? Or save it for the work session? I know Councilor Righty said he would provide his at the work session. I believe Councilor Hand's report probably includes some external entities. Anything else? All right, unless somebody objects, we are adjourned.